Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another episode of Tides of Lore, episode 19. My name is Tim Harrell, joined by my good friend Rob. How you doing today, Rob?
Oh, I'm doing good, man. I've been playing a ton of retail WoW. I went out of town for the weekend. I've been up to a whole lot of stuff. Mostly mindlessly grinding that underpin question mark mount. Well, difficulty rather. I don't know. Something about ever since doing Zekthir, I was like, I need to do this one too. I cannot live without having it done.
Well, and you got it, right?
Oh, I did. It took me like 225 runs.
Oh my, that's
Well, for most of them, I was like Havoc, so I would like get like 3-shot, and I tried to do that with a healer and kind of balance it by healing constantly like I did with the Zekthir fight, but in the end, it was made way clearer that it would be easier done if I could just sustain myself basically endlessly as a vengeance demon hunter instead.
Will there be a underpin video incoming?
No, I did actually make a little guide that I posted on Reddit, but I'm not making a video because one, I didn't record the footage. If I actually did end up streaming this last week too on our Tides of Lore Twitch channel. Check that out if you're at all interested. If you want to support the channel even more, we'd love to see it.
I mean,
honestly, I
honestly,
was running that mindlessly for like 4 hours on there until I was like, I'm done. Good night, guys.
Oh yeah,
What have you been up to?
I've been just playing Monster Hunter, dude. 92 hours in now, helping my good friend Kyle sort of make his way through high rank now. Well, we're gonna start making him his like end game gear. So, like, we're having a good time, man. He's never played Monster Hunter, so I'm just like teaching him the ways. I started in World, so not even that far along ago, but at least I have a little under my belt. But super fun game. I'm still having a blast. Some people, calling it easy. And it is easy. I will say it is easy, but it's also really fun. Like, super fun. That's what.
Is it? I guess, how is the difficulty compared to Worlds? Because I did play up to the end of Worlds. So.
I remember in World, and every YouTube video, I've been diving down the Monster Hunter video rabbit hole. Yeah, in YouTube. And everyone is comparing the Anjanath fight, in World. Because I remember dying. Yeah, the Fire T-Rex. I remember dying to that Anjanath fight, and like that's when I had to. All right, now I have to learn how to make gear because I'm obviously taking too much damage. There's not really a wall like that in this game. Like I maybe fainted, or they call it carding, but I never carded 3 times. Right? I never failed a quest. Like I carded maybe once in a quest, right? But I never like failed a quest. And the World, dude, Anjanath was pretty early, so.
Oh yeah, I think it was like your first major monster you fight.
Exactly, and that's when I had to like learn. Okay, now I have to make gear and stuff like that. I'm teaching like my friend how to do that, just because like you should. Like, dude, you could probably go through with the base gear and be completely fine. Like, so, but it's super fun. The combat unmatched to World. Like, just the changes they made. Like, it is addicting. It's addicting how fun it is. That's why I have 92 hours, dude. I'm mastering Greatsword. Now I want to master like Longsword or Dual Blades or something like that, So, but yeah,
no Dual Blades. We've talked about this. You're not a weeb.
Well, Longsword's a weeb too for weebs too.
Dog.
So I used to do Hammer. I like Greatsword. We'll see what the next.
Do Sword and Shield.
Yeah, it's really good in this game. Really good. Really good.
I've seen a bunch of people just charging through the flames and some epic music playing behind them. I'm like, that looks awesome.
Do you want to recap us on last episode, Rob?
Sure, I can recap us on the last episode. The last episode, we talked about the Eridar, the Draenei. We discussed their origins on the planet of Argus and how they were eventually... Well, kind of how certain members of their society delved a little too deep into the magical arts and found out about fel magic, and then Sargeras showed up to their world and offered some of their leaders some cool stuff, and they took that.
Of course, because no one ever denies fel. Like,
I mean, have you seen how good it is? Clearly, it has a great track record.
It has gone. Every person who's accepted fel into their life has had a great life, let me tell you.
So we talked about them. We talked about their leaders falling to fel magic, becoming some of like the lieutenants of the Burning Legion, or the commanders even. Then we talked about the Draenei's fleeing of Argus, arriving on Draenor, their short peace with the orcs before turning to a violent war where most of them are killed off, and then them eventually stealing portion of the Tempest Keep from the Blood Elves, who had also stolen it from the Naru.
Which is crazy. I never knew Tempest Keep is Naru formed. Never knew that.
Makes sense, though. It looks just like it. When I didn't realize it either until I looked at it. I'm like, oh, yeah. I guess that does make sense.
Yeah.
I just thought this was like some crazy blood elf magic out here. But yeah, they steal the Genedar. Its engine is damaged, so they crash onto Azeroth. And then from there, they join up with the Alliance and begin to assist them leading into the Burning Crusade expansion, which we're going to kind of talk about the next half of that story today.
Amazing. I think there's some comments from last week.
Comments that we had from last week. We did have a bunch of new comments. We were actually getting a ton of support over this last week. It was kind of crazy. I feel like I say this every week, but the amount that we grow is so substantial compared to even the growth that we've seen before that it's something I always feel like I have to mention. So thank you guys so much. And from one of those many comments, we did have Fabrics7646 saying, great video. Just got into WoW recently, and you guys have been a huge help on me catching up with the lore. Which
I love that.
I feel like that's, yeah, I think that's like the exact reason why we started this podcast.
It's just been out for so long. And with Warcraft history, which we were going through, like a lot of people don't know that. That's like some boomer shit right there, right? So, yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, so it's just the ideal people that we're hoping this content finds. So we're really happy to hear that, and thank you. We did also have DCPTF2 saying, the artwork at the timestamp is a good reminder that no matter how hard I tried in the past, no matter how hard I could give in the future, I will never be immortalized in the game like some people who do Warcraft content, and it makes me feel rather empty inside. And I feel like that's kind of fair. I did also mention to him, I'm like, in fairness, back when the World of Warcraft was even kind of on its come up, there was significantly less people like using the internet and making content and stuff like that. So it was a lot easier for certain people to become kind of legends amongst the community and whatnot.
It was more tight knit. I mean, I noticed that with communities like, remember Hardcore, man, how tight knit that community was, like fucking Cargos, like talking to us in stream and stuff. Like it was just like cool stuff like that because it's a closer community. So,
and now it is a lot more, there's just a lot more people here, a lot more shit going on, content constantly being posted from all sorts of sides of the internet, so it's kind of hard to always catch the right eyes. But I did also mention to him, at the very least, you're immortalized on our channel now, so
there we go.
You're a legend in our eyes.
Let's go.
Yes, sir. We did also have LukeLandBias3964 saying, great stuff as always. I look forward to these. I'm also a huge fan of the bug races on Azeroth. I watched my parents at the opening of Ahn'Qiraj as a kid. Coolest things my little eyes had ever seen. Also, I did witness several of those black battle tank mounts once in Ironforge with my own eyes. I don't think I've ever seen a Scarab Lord.
Well, since Classic re-release, I've seen it. Like, Esfand was a Scarab Lord.
I guess not with my own eyes. Like, I've seen streamers and stuff that did it, but I don't think
I've seen some people in retail with it.
YouTube video with it.
I've seen some
really?
people.
Yeah, no, I don't even think I've seen retail people with it.
Dude,
So I did. Go on.
Someone posted on Reddit the other day 3 Scarab Lords next to each other on the mounts.
Oh yeah. I actually did see that.
Right? Yeah.
But that is awesome. And lastly, we did have JFreesh99 saying, been loving these pods while leveling my Warlock on Sod. Keep up the great content.
Let's go.
I did a level check with him. Did want to see where he was at with that. And
oh, well,
apparently Affliction Walk slaps. So.
Well, Sod is, dude, you can level so fast in Sod.
We didn't get past the first season, though. We only
got it was
something like that.
It capped out at 25.
Yeah.
And it just got repetitive, and I just never got back on.
I just didn't think Mage was that good. I thought Mage was really boring, even with the changes.
Well, just at 25, nothing was that good at 20. I mean, there were good classes, don't get me wrong, but it wasn't like insane fucking rotations, you know?
Yeah, and I guess maybe I kind of spoiled myself by playing like the remix. And remix, I felt like genuinely you guys like some crazy changes to your class with the Mist remix. So I was just kind of hoping for something a bit more similar to that.
Yeah.
But that is all that we had from last week. And we will now be moving on to this week's episode of more Blood Elf content. Like I said, Blood Elf content inbound. So we're going to hop in today with some Kael'thas Sunstrider.
I mean, it's a good duality. We talked about the Draenei. Now we're talking about like almost their counterpart in a sense, right?
Well, that's the idea. Talk about the alliances faction that they get in the Burning Crusade. Now talk about the details of how the Blood Elves come to be into the Burning Crusade with the Horde. So that is the goal. Yep. Before we dive into today's story, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to Tides of Lore on YouTube, or if you're on Spotify, leave us a 5-star rating. It really helps the channel and ensures you won't miss a moment of this adventure. Now let's get started. Back when we last talked about Kael'thas Sunstrider, I believe this was the Illidan episode. Him helping out Illidan, going to the land of Outland and helping him to try and stop Arthas at the Ice Crown Glacier is the last time we checked in with him. We didn't go into too much detail with that because we were trying to really focus more on Illidan's story that time. But now we got more Kael'thas, and just to touch base at that fight, you did have Kael'thas trying to stop Arthas using his father's, or I guess his family's legacy weapon, Fellow Malorn, the major artifact that you can get in the Legion expansion. And he fails. It does allegedly in the story have this super cool feature where if it breaks and is reforged, it's somehow reforged stronger, unlike, real weapons where they would be typically weaker. But nonetheless, he gets worked, and they eventually ends up teleporting out of that fight and leaving the artifact Fellow Malorn off in Ice Crown to later be found by some super cool people.
He just left it there? Arthas never tried to do anything with it.
I guess not. I think it might have been like lost or something, and there might even be some character who like shuttles it off to some hidden place. But when I was looking for it, it just says, eventually you, the heroes of Azeroth, find the weapon.
Yeah.
And I haven't done the mage.
That was my next thing. So. I was going to say, yeah, next up, you got to go do the artifact.
Well, and when we do get to Legion, I plan to kind of go in more depth for each class and their artifact hall, because all of these artifacts are legendary weapons of World of Warcraft. So I do want to talk about it more, at which point I'll definitely play, but my mage did level through Legion, and I ended up doing Alaneth, which is the arcane artifact.
All of the Legion class quests are so good.
Oh yeah, I love them. But still, there was that fact that Kael'thas' people are tweaking out from their mana addiction. So during that time, he takes what is said to be about 15% of his blood elves that still survived after the Scourge, and takes them into Outland to follow the leadership of Illidan. And while he's doing this, he actually ends up sending one of the major mages, a man by the name of Grand Magister Romath. Rommath. However you want to say that. I'm pretty sure it's Romath. Anyway, he basically sends him back to Quel'Thalas. He's like, make Lothramar the Prince Regent or King Regent or whatever to the throne while I'm out here, and when I get back, things are going to be awesome and amazing. So he's like, cool. I'll also tell them about how we've been sucking creatures to death to get their life energy. And he's like, cool. So he goes out there to Quel'Thalas, and he's like, hey guys, Prince Kael'thas says we should be sucking things to death for their life energy. And the Blood Elves are like, well, it's better than suffering and dying, I guess. So we'll go do that. And he kind of begins to paint a bit more of a fantastical picture for the people of Quel'Thalas about what is going on Outland. He's like, yeah, the prince is building this wonderful utopia for our people where we're gonna have all the magic juice we could ever want. You guys, you'll see it. It's gonna be great. It's gonna be great.
Sounds like a politician.
Kinda. And I don't, because he's still in the story today. He doesn't do much, Romath, but he is a good character, or at the very least, he's still on our side to a degree. So it seems like he was kind of like, I believe that the prince is actually going to do all of these things. He's not just trying to sell a picture. But, like I said, he makes Lothramar Theron the regent of Quel'Thalas. So he's like, you rule while I'm gone. And with that being the case, he's like, all right, we still got some portions of the Scourge that are over here near Quel'Thalas that are ruining our day. We obviously have those Amani trolls that are always looking to kick down. And then now we are also looking at the threat of the Burning Legion kind of on the approach from the Black Portal. And That's when Sylvanas Windrunner, previous High Elf, once Ranger General of Silvermoon, approaches him and is like, hey, I joined up with this group known as the Horde because they're super cool guys and didn't immediately kill all our emissaries like those shitbag alliances guys did. And they let us in because, you know, we're all trying to make it out here together. You should join them too. And at first, there are, you know, a lot of people who are like, you telling me we should join the same horde that burnt down our city and our lands during the Second War? Maybe.
I mean, but they'd probably help them with their troll situation, and I don't know. It could probably be good.
And Lothramar agrees. He's like, you know, despite our past and despite our feud, we can agree that Thrall and Cairn and Vol'jin are not the horde of the days of old. They're not Orgrim Doomhammer. They're not, you know,
the old horde.
So we will strongly consider it. And basically they do eventually have those leaders, Thrall, Cairn, and Vol'jin, which is one I was the most surprised to find out about. Like, they let a troll into Quel'Thalas to partner with them, basically. And while it is obvious that, like, you know, Vol'jin's essentially from the opposite side of the continent as the Amani trolls, it's still something that I was surprised to have heard of in the Sylvanas novel when they mention it.
I think I brought that up when we were talking about them joining the Horde before, and it dumbfounded me too. Like, isn't a troll a troll? Yeah, because there's a lot of racists in World of Warcraft.
Yeah. I guess it's just like following the scourging. They're not left with many options, and dealing with trolls. I mean, I also think I even mentioned in that episode, it's not necessarily that they were like, yeah, for the Horde, but as much as they're like, well, Quel'Thalas needs defenders, so we need allies, and that's not coming from the Alliance at the moment. So they end up joining up with the Horde, and with that, they're kind of send a message to Kael'thas, like, hey guys, things are going okay over here. We're still mana addicted though, so send mana. And this is around that same time where Khadgar and Velen spoke with the Naaru and were like, we need more help on Outland. The demons, they're coming. And Tempest Keep arrives. Kael'thas takes over Tempest Keep, and, you know, the Draenei escape, like we spoke about in the recap of last episode. He'll eventually end up sending over that Naaru, like we mentioned in the Blood Elf episode, a Naaru by the name of Meru. And Meru is then forcefully drained of its light, power, and energy to give the kind of ex-priestesses and priests of Quel'Thalas the ability to channel light magic, and creates the Blood Knights.
Little unethical.
Definitely unethical. And that's actually something that a lot of people, even in the High Elven or the Blood Elven society, kind of think at the same time. There's Haldron Brightwing, who is the man who ends up becoming Ranger General after Sylvanas dies. He is not a big fan. He questions the moral implications of subjugating the Naaru. And there are other residents of Quel'Thalas who are like, is this really like the path that we're going down, where we like create these infected paladins kind of as they see it?
Is this still the way Blood Elves create their paladins?
In Modern WoW?
Yeah, now.
No. And we'll talk about it at the end of this story by the time we reach the end of the kind of raids that we're going to talk about today. But no, not anymore.
Okay.
So Lothramar, kind of being torn by the skepticism of his people, but the optimism of needing more soldiers to face off against the trolls and this now growing threat, constantly ever-growing threat of the demons on Outland, and kind of also always looking to help out their prince, because they're still, you know, all for that at this time. There is that guy. Oh man, is he resilient. He's back. Tarkhan Drathyr.
Oh my gosh. Wait, is this the guy that died a bunch of times? Like the most resurrected guy?
Yeah, and believe it or not, yeah, he's back again. He has no necessarily explanation on why he's back. It just says the Lich King resurrects him again.
Of course. Why? Because why wouldn't he? He's the biggest simp.
I mean, if all of these undead were as easy to bring back as Tarkhan Drathyr is, like, I don't know how we ever would beat the Lich King.
Didn't he betray his people too?
Oh yeah. He even betrayed Arthas though, which is why I'm just like, what? Why this guy? Like, what did this guy do? But yeah, he comes back. We once thought that he was incinerated by Invina Teague, the embodiment of the Sunwell, but, you know, he's, like I said, somehow Palpatine returned by the Lich King, and he has been given a task by the Lich King to lure out these unsuspecting Blood Knights in an attempt to ambush them. So he poses up as a person by the name of Thaddeer. And he's like, yeah, guys, come meet me at Darkon Drathir's old residence. Apparently there's some stuff that I need. Definitely as many of those Blood Knights specifically as you can get over here. And I should mention that the reason the Lich King's even interested in the Blood Knights is the concept of a paladin that doesn't necessarily gain its power through worship seems interesting to it. So he's like curious of essentially of if he could get paladins of the light just from them being, you know, undead and still subjugating the light itself, kind of.
Undead paladins like, incoming?
Exactly. Death Knight paladin class mix.
Oh, that would be insane. Death grip on a paladin, dude.
Death grip, hammer of justice.
Bubble, lay on hands. Death strike.
Anti-magic shield.
You have your combat res. You have 2 combat reses, because DK and paladin.
Oh gosh, the horror. I would never play a single round of WoW PvP again.
Anti-magic shield after the bubble. There's so many things that are going through my mind that you could do.
Running across water.
Yeah.
But yeah, so he's like, yeah, guys, come on over. And Lothar is just like, hey, guys, I think we've been played once too many times before. This is probably a trap. So a bunch of these Blood Knights show up, but also who else shows up is the Magister Bloodsworn and a Haldren Brightwing and his Farstriders. And I believe even Lothar himself is there, and they just all show up, and they're like, you thought you was going to catch us slipping, and they beat the shit out of him. And then Darkon's trying to run away when Lothar shoots him with this arrow. And just to make it clear, this whole quest line revolves around these certain artifacts that have been touched and empowered by the Sunwell previously. And he shoots him with an arrow with one of these artifacts. And the Darkon Drathir immediately incinerates and turns to dust. And dies for ding, ding, ding the 3rd time.
Do we know how many times is this the last time we'll see him?
No, he comes right back again, actually, just as the invasion of Outland begins. It's, again, not clear at all how this man returns, but once again, he comes back, and this is actually where you'll see him in-game in Deathholm.
Is he a lich?
Bro, now that's a theory. Darkon Drathir is actually a lich.
There you go. Just a little something I cooked up right there.
Oh my god, no, yeah, that would make more sense than anything else they've given me at this point. But yes, this is where they finally hire, I guess, the only people that can get a job done in the entirety of Azeroth to kill him. Us. The heroes of Azeroth. So, yeah, I believe this is a Blood Elf starting zone quest. You're giving a level 15 quest to go and murder him in Deathholm, and you do. And this time you bring him, I believe you bring back the entire head of him, and you're just like, yeah, I don't think he's going anywhere this time.
Then he might not be a lich. That might take my theory out.
But when's the last time that we saw the head of Darkon Drathir?
I don't know. Yeah, You'd think he would be back by now. If he didn't come back.
On it, bro, if they had brought him back for Shadowlands, now that would have been fucking crazy. This man just never... He actually wants an expansion, at least for a little side quest.
He's like, you know that Millhouse Manastorm guy? You see him all the time?
Yeah.
Same thing with this other guy, he's Darkon.
The South Park Kenny of the WoW universe.
Yeah.
You killed Darkon, you bastard. But yeah, so eventually it seems like we have handled him and he's actually dead this time. And that is what leads into kind of the beginning of the Burning Crusade expansion, where now Kael'thas is on Outland. A handful of his soldiers have kind of left his service to go try and become demon hunters under Illidan, because they're like, well, if we're going to be doing fell magic over here, which, to be clear, Kael'thas looking for other magical sources on Outland, there's not many others, so they have begun, essentially, like I said, draining things for their life force, which is basically fell magic, to be clear. He's just like, yeah, I think I might have made a mistake. And I don't think he necessarily tells anyone this, but we do get the information that he believes that going to Outland, serving Illidan and stuff like that has become a mistake. Like he just thinks that it was the wrong call. And in this kind of vulnerable state, there is a creature that reaches out to him and is like, I can give you the right path, though. And it's Kil'jaeden, Eridar that we spoke about last time, now super supreme baddie of the Burning Legion. And he's like, hey, man, super powerful demon lord here. Clearly, the answer to your people still struggling with their mana addiction is you're not using enough fel magic.
Hey, you know what will help you with your drug addiction? More drugs. Like,
you can't go into withdrawals if you never stop, my friend. So yeah, he tells him that. Kael'thas initially is just like, that's fucking stupid. Why would I do that? No. But it does begin to kind of play on that doubt that he has of trusting Illidan, of helping Illidan. He thinks that Illidan, once Illidan goes to face the Burning Legion, that he's just going to be kind of left to die, you know, kind of like how some of the Broken were with a comma and stuff like that. So he doesn't really trust them. And there was also that situation where Illidan's like, go get the people in Shattrath City. And Kael'thas is like, all right, I'll send some of my most powerful mages over there and they'll handle it. And the mages arrived at Shattrath City and they were like, yeah, we surrender. Kael'thas is fucking batshit. Here are our weapons. We're going to start up the Scryers.
That makes sense.
And they swear their loyalty to this other Naru by the name of Adal that you'll see in Shattrath City. And yeah, like I said, they'll found the faction in the city known as the Scryers.
Well, isn't Adal kind of like blinded by the light?
I wouldn't say so. Not at least in this expansion.
Not yet.
I can't talk later, but I think that for now he seems to be a fairly good voice of reason.
Okay. I just remember that one scene where Illidan, you know, did his thing on him.
Which is fair. That actually wasn't Adal.
That wasn't Adal.
That was Zera.
Oh, I thought it was Adal.
I mean, I still think it's a similar thing because, I mean, all the Naru seem to have a unified purpose, so it's hard to say how many of them have truly
like different perspectives,
good intentions. Yeah.
Well, they it's like a one mindset, like almost like a hive mind in a sense.
I don't know about the details on that in terms of if
okay, because that's what I was
exactly the same
up.
way. But considering they're essentially all fragments of the initial light of the universe, it seems hard to believe that any of them would have drastically different opinions in that regard. I'm sure if there was a council of all of these Naru watching the Illidan thing happen, they'd be like, yeah, that's cool. Definitely not. Go ahead and force him into what that you're doing. I'm sure that's fine. But yeah, so with that being the case, Kael'thas also kind of blames Illidan for his people betraying him at Shattrath because he's like, well, I told you to send the demon hunters if you wanted to make sure that it got it done. And Illidan was like, but we need those against the Legion. I'm not here to kill off your dudes. And so he basically begins to directly cut off his support from Illidan. And now he's kind of, I'm going to do my own thing. And that's when he calls up Kil'jaeden once again. He's like, Kil'jaeden, is that offer for doing more fel magic still on the table? And Kil'jaeden's like, but of course, you know, anything for you, my loyal subjects.
Here's a line.
He's like, yeah, man, for sure, for sure. So he promises to be the salvation for the Blood Elf people. And now his new, essentially, leader that he works for is no longer Illidan and has now become Kil'jaeden. And just as the entire Burning Crusade events are kicking off, as we're starting to charge through the Dark Portal and get into the Hellfire Peninsula and Shattrath City and all that, the Scryers also find out now about Kael'thas' deal with the Burning Legion. And it begins essentially a recruitment war between the Blood Elves of Shattrath City, who are like, yep, Kael'thas has lost the way. He's not about that. He's not about his people anymore. He's about fel magic. Don't join him. And Kael'thas is like, nah, the plan never stopped. I'm still just always looking to save my people. You just don't understand.
So when does he stray from the Blood Elves or the Sindori? Like the Blood Elves we know.
I mean, I would say like canonically it would be this point. Like this is the point in the gameplay where you would be working for the Scryers to start preparing for your level 68 entry into the Tempest Keep and stuff like that, right? But I would say lore-wise, it isn't until quite after the Eye that you do end up truly having him completely abandon the goal of saving the Blood Elves for something completely different. Because even then, Kael'thas is still at Tempest Keep. He's now turned its super advanced technology into essentially kind of a factory to turn the chaotic energies of the Netherstorm into mana cells that he's sending over to Quel'Thalas in an attempt to, re-empower the Sunwell, to give their people something to drink. And so his goal still seems to be, up until this point, I am doing this for the Blood Elf people, but it seems like a few people recognize that, sure, you are for now, until somebody yanks your chain and tells you not to. And that is where word of him joining up with the Burning Legion, with Kil'jaeden, this demon that at one point had tried to invade their world. So they're like, yeah, I think he's lost his way. And I think that we have to come to the cold understanding that Kael'thas is now an enemy of Quel'Thalas. And Lothar Theron is like, unfortunately, I agree. So they, the Blood Elves of Quel'Thalas, declare war on Kael'thas and his, I believe they're called the Sun Fury?
Sunstriders?
Like I think they're the Sun Fury. I could be wrong. But yes, essentially, there has been a schism where certain portions decide to stay with Kael'thas and certain portions break off in a rebellion against him, and they call upon the Horde and the Heroes of Azeroth to help to face Kael'thas in his now perceived tyranny, essentially.
Do you know the story on his Phoenix hatching? Like, you get that mount. Is there a story on that?
Ashes of Alar?
Or is it just because he's a cool fire mage and it's a firebird?
Ooh, tempting. I think that probably is the lore, but let's see here. Alar was the beloved pet of Kael'thas Sunstrider, who often boasts that death would never claim it.
But where did it come from? Where did the pet come from?
The extent of the lore that we got.
My.
It's his beloved pet.
Yeah, but from where? Like, I have a pet.
From being his beloved pet. Yeah, where did Holly come from? No.
I adopted her. She was found in Texas.
Kael'thas goes to PetSmart, okay? The Humane Society. He finds this young little Phoenix hatchling, and that's how Alar comes to be.
Okay.
With all that going down, he begins to spy on the Earthen Ring and the Shadow Moon Valley, and he learns of this Cipher of Damnation, like this ancient artifact once used by Gul'dan to sever the orcs' spiritual connection from the throne of Kil'jaeden, when they basically initially were just like, yeah, fuck the elements, we hate the elements, back however long ago, right? And he's like, ooh, I think I can get my hands on that, and obviously it's going to be a good thing because fel magic is awesome, smiley face. And Khadgar, Adal, the Heroes of Azeroth find out about this, and they're like, definitely can't let that happen. So we prevent him from getting a hold of the Cipher of Damnation, and with that, they're like, yeah, he's definitely gone off the deep end. You should go into Tempest Keep and put the Mad King down. And I'm sure that the Alliance were like, okay. And I'm sure that the Horde were like, oh, this is a sad day. Okay. Thank you for tuning into Tides of Lore. If you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with your fellow adventurers. Your support makes all the difference. Thank you. So, one of the hero raids of Azeroth, we go into the Eye, this raid known as the Eye at Tempest Keep, and you battle with all of Kael'thas' little goonies in his court, and you face Kael'thas himself, and you beat him. Unless you played during the launch of the Burning Crusade, where I hear he was completely bugged for 80% of his fights, so he went unkilled for a year.
I mean, can we talk about that fight? Or at least the fight before him. His goonies, as he called them. You'd kill them and they would drop legendary weapons that you'd use.
That was a cool feature.
Yeah, what do you know what that is about? What kind of weapons those were? Or
every single one of these weapons has nothing to be said about it. So I guess we can just kind of presume that they were probably legendary artifacts used by the Blood Elf people.
Does working for Thas, does he just give you a fucking legendary weapon? Here, take it from my stash.
After 2 years, you get to open up your Great Vault, and in your Great Vault, you got a guaranteed legendary.
You just got to sub for 2 years, get on every single day, by yearly subs.
Yeah, so Unfortunately, those don't have any interesting information about them. But I did think that in terms of an actual fight, that was a really cool feature that, I mean, we definitely never see come back around. So kind of iconic in a way. But yes, we technically don't kill him. He is saved by this demon by the name of Priestess Delisra, who teleports him away while he's like on his deathbed, essentially, yelling about how I was trying to save Quel'Thalas, I was doing it for my home, blah, blah, blah. And then she's like, yeah, come on, you're not done yet. So she dips out of there with him. And you miss your Ashes of Alar drop like me, unless you're Tim and get it on the first try.
First try, baby. Come on now.
And that is where we will find ourselves back with the citizens of Quel'Thalas. And they have found that while a lot of their attention has been drawn to Outland and dealing with Kael'thas and the demons and stuff like that, helping the Horde, that the trolls of Zul'Aman, the Amani, are like, hey guys, they look busy. We should jump them. And kind of a typical reaction for them. Back when the Scourge invaded, they had the same mindset, basically. So the still leader of their people, Zul'Jin, from all the way back even during the Second War, is like, I agree. It's time to jump them. So they go and they reignite their war with the Blood Elves. I should mention that this is kind of actually kicked off by Alliance treasure seekers going into Zul'Aman to steal their treasures. And Zul'Jin's like, you know what? Fuck the Blood Elves again.
What? How does that make sense?
Hey man, I never said that Zul'Jin was a logical man.
Dude, fuck the trolls, man. There's some racist fucking.
So they swing for the lowest hanging fruit, and they go to declare war on the Blood Elves again. And this time, he has his witch doctor by the name of Malakras, who has seen the way that the Blood Elves have been forcing this Naru to give them power. And they're like, guys, what if we did this with the Loa? And with that, they gain essentially Loa infused trolls. So they take up the shape of like an actual tiger or something like that, but like a humanoid version of a tiger and stuff like that. And with this, they're like, it's time into the Eversong Woods. Let's go and kill all those Blood Elves. And they do that. And they hear about the Blood Elves joining up with the Horde, and they also hate the Horde because the Horde didn't follow through with taking Quel'Thalas back during the Second War. And they're just like, man, fuck everybody for real. And us being part of the Horde, us being part of the Alliance, and them now attacking us, we're like, well, maybe we will go steal their treasures now. So we do. We go to Zul'Aman. They have us enter into this dungeon. I think it was a 10-man dungeon back in the day, and now it's a 5-man. I could be wrong on that. I might be thinking of a different one. But yeah, you go in there. You kill everybody, including his witch doctor and Zul'Jin, after all that he's done in his wars with the Blood Elves throughout the Second War and prior and way long after that. So literally like almost 50 years, I feel like, of fighting with the Blood Elves. Jin dies to the heroes of Azeroth. And the Amani are never heard from, not actually, but they don't do much ever again.
Cut the head off the snake.
Basically. And yeah, that's where it leaves us back once again with Kael'thas, who has been following his defeat at Tempest Keep and now being rescued by this demon priestess Delisra. He has been resurrected, kind of, or I guess just at least sutured using fell magic. So he now has this completely pale skin and hollowed out eyes and this massive green crystal popping out of his chest. And he is like, all right, well, that plan didn't work over at the Eye, but now my super cool leader, who I am totally loyal to now over everything, says that I should go and remake the Sunwell so that he can come on through. So he goes back to Quel'Thalas with his Legion-infected soldiers with these demons now as well. And having been bolstered by a bunch of the energies that he siphoned from the Netherstorm in his mana forges, he attacks the city of Silvermoon. And he literally kills his own people so that he can take the corrupted or broken Maru from them and use him to help empower the Sunwell and make it back. And as he begins to post up on his little isle where the Sunwell used to be, known as the Isle of Quel'Thalas, he also finds that that lady that no one ever actually told him about, Envina Teague, who is the embodiment of the Sunwell.
Oh, yeah.
And I guess Lothramar was in the right for not telling him, because he did keep it a secret from him, because he was like, ugh, I think this might make him act irrationally. Yeah, you're probably right on that one, Lothramar. You're probably right on that one. And he kidnapped her as well.
Great.
Unfortunately for him, this is like the absolute breaking point for anyone that was like a Kael'thas supporter, right? And one of those people being Lady Liadrin, the leader of the Blood Knights, who up until this point was just like, I'm doing all that I can for Quel'Thalas, but seeing him attack his own people, she is just like, I've made a mistake. So she goes to Shatrath City. She goes before Adal, that Naru that exists in the city, and she basically is just like, the Blood Knights have seen through Kael'thas' illusions at this point. We've been shown that he is a shit person, and we are now going to start this new faction to go and fight him and his demon legions by the name of the Shattered Sun Offensive, which is essentially the combination of the Shatar, the Adal, the Scryers, and the Blood Knights all coming together as one to fight Kael'thas.
That's pretty badass. I like that.
And I think that term Shattered Sun, I mean, that's probably what I'm going to end up naming this episode, just because I think that even that term to describe Kael'thas is like the perfect like analogy, because I mean, it's literally like the Prince of the Sun. He's the prince of these people that are born from the worshiping the light for so long and stuff like that, and he has fallen out of their graces and gone to a different, darker path. So I think that as I look at that name, I love it. Also, the Hearthstone card was incredible, so thank you.
It's a big fuck you to him.
Basically. And that is where, at the Magister's Terrace, like I said, you have Kael'thas, who begins to set up all of his little Legion goonies, and he's like, you guys go stand over there. The demon lady who protects, or who resurrected me, you'll stand right in front of me in the dungeon. And from there, he begins to devise a plan to bring back the Sunwell, but use it as a portal, not too unsimilar to how they were trying to do it with the Well of Eternity to bring Sargeras in, but this time bring Kil'jaeden into the world. And he gets pretty far. I mean, he brought a lot of mana back from the Netherstorm and stuff like that, and realizing what's going on, the Alliance and the Horde are basically like told, yeah, guys, super bad demon coming to the planet unless we go close that door. And that's what begins essentially this massive raid, massive united force moving into the Isle of Quel'Thalas to do a daily quest.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Yes, sir. And we do that. We do our daily quests. Eventually, we are able to get into the Magister's Terrace, which I believe is the first heroic dungeon.
Isn't that where you actually, take him down?
It is indeed. So, with the help of the Blue Dragons, because if we remember back when we talked about the Blood Elf episode, the Blue Dragons are also kind of invested in Envina Teague and the Sunwell, because their job is to protect magic.
Right.
Specifically, Kael'thas, who is kind of fond of the pretty blonde lady, is like, yeah, guys, we definitely need to go and stop him. So with the help of these Blue Dragons, we go into the Magister's Terrace. We kill all of his demonic entities, and I believe a bunch of just like arcane constructs as well. And then you go in there and you once again face Kael'thas. And as you kill him, this time he goes to die, and instead of like how he talked about when he was in the Eye during the first time you face him, where he was like, I was doing it for my home, I was doing it for Quel'Thalas, like, you just don't understand. He is now like, fuck you all, I hate you, I hope you all die, you're gonna suffer terrible deaths, you're pieces of shit, I hate you. And then he dies. So again, that really does draw the line of where his mindset was at in between just those 2 points alone.
You think Fel influenced it?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, when has Fel ever been like a good, even when we see it just like slightly affect like Valyra in the World of Warcraft comic, you see her become just illogical, basically, right? She doesn't make the right decision. She makes the the chaotic decision.
Right. Yeah. So
and
yet again, made another person
bad. But yeah, and I feel like the one, not one person, but one of the people that this ends up crushing the most is that Magister that we mentioned earlier, Ramath, who seemingly up until all this stuff with the Isle of Quel'Thalas and everything like that went down was like completely like, go Kael'thas, we got this, we're gonna make it, we're gonna do it, we're gonna make all of our people so amazing. Once again, this will be so awesome. He seems to just be crushed by it. And it is through him that you learn that Kael'thas is buried on the Isle of Quel'Thalas, seemingly in some sort of crypt. And that leaves just one final thing for you to go handle, and that is to take on the residents inside the Sunwell Plateau and stop the portal that is opening between Argus to bring Kil'jaeden into the world. And yeah, they do that. I did see that on the wiki, they say that the Alliance is the one that goes into the Sunwell Plateau.
Interesting.
I did not find any confirmation about this. It's not like in the Chronicle where it explicitly said that to be true. But I did see somebody say that whoever wrote that portion seems to indicate that. So take that with a grain of salt, if you will. But we go in there. We face Meru, that corrupted Naru who has now completely been overtaken by the void after how long it's been drained by the Blood Elves and stuff like that, and it's become just like this malicious entity. And eventually you reach the Sunwell, where Kil'jaeden half pops out of there and is just all talking mad shit like, haha, the Legion's plans are here for you now, is your doom, or whatever he says.
And we kill him or what?
Not quite. At this point, essentially the entire point of that fight was even to just not kill him, but to just push him back through the portal and be like, no, you stay over there. And we aren't even able to do it until Envina Teague, who is being magically kept at this site for the Sunwell to be like basically drained to bring him into the world, then sacrifices her life somehow. It's not super clear. She just kind of glows in the game and then disappears. But through this, she basically seems to channel her remaining energy of being this avatar of the Sunwell into sending him spiraling out of the world of Azeroth and back into the Twisting Nether before sealing off the Sunwell, where she will disappear from the world, never to be seen again. I would say presumably going back to the energy she originally was of being this now radiant Sunwell, because the Sunwell through this spell work has been brought back into the world, but it's still corrupted because of Kil'jaeden now. They see that this is happening. Lorthramar is like looking at the Sunwell basically, and he's like, yeah, it about killed our people last time when Kael'thas corrupted it, so we're probably going to have to blow this thing up again. And that's when Prophet Velen arrives with Lady Liadrin to claim the remains of that Naru that they had taken back, however long ago, because it is now dead. It was the fight before the last boss. So he goes, and as he's like, hey guys, can't help but to notice that while this thing is mostly void corrupted, there is the heart of this Naru, and it is seemingly as radiant, brilliant white as ever before. And he is like, I got an idea how I can help your people. So he uses this heart of Meru and does some sort of light ritual, and through this manages to purify the Sunwell.
Interesting. Getting rid of the heart, it consumed it?
It seems like he, channels channels this Naru's essence into the Sunwell and purifies it. Like, I think you see something very similar to this with the Velen on the Warlords of Draenor, where he like steps into the light and uses his own energy to purify this corrupted Naru when you're doing the Shadowmoon Valley quest line out there. But it is also stated by a doll that Meru always knew the grander scheme of it all. He never actually was, I guess, forcefully taken by the Blood Elves. He knew that through all of this, that eventually this moment would come to pass, and it would be his sacrifice that purifies the Sunwell for these next people.
What a good guy. Wow.
I know. A truly a dapper gentleman, if you will. So yeah, Meru sacred light blends with the Sunwell, and it reignites, once again now being this font of insane arcane power, but also now blended with the pure energy of the element of the light itself as well. So with that, you have like even members of like Lady of the Blood Elves, like Lady Illidan, she during the scene like falls to her knees and just like so much love, so much grace. Like I can feel like it being in its light like I've never felt it before, even before it was destroyed. And with that, it is now the reason why the Blood Elves no longer need to forcefully draw energy from stuff to gain the power of the light, because they now have the Sunwell that is also magically imbued by the power of the light with this sacrifice.
Now they just do it for fun with their racial.
Now they just do it to the enemies that are standing within 10 yards of them. But yeah, and with that, I did just want to touch back on that last episode where we had the prophecy that Velen had before any of this went down about the Sunwell, and kind of go over that and how it pertained to this episode. So to remind you, that was the prophecy that said, "Silvery moon, washed in blood, led astray into the night, armed with the sword of broken light. Broken, then betrayed by one, standing there beside the sun. At darkest hour, redemption comes, in knightly lady sworn to blood." And to just break it down for you, the very first one is Silver Moon being ruined by the Scourge, followed by the Blood Elf's devotion to Kael'thas and the Maru being the broken sword of light that the Blood Elves draw their power from. And then broken and betrayed by one, of Kael'thas betraying the Blood Elf people to go and stand beside the Sunwell. Lastly, in darkest hour, redemption comes, being the purification of the Sunwell and Lady Liadrin's assistance through joining up with the Shattered Sun offensive. And that is pretty much it. I will say that with all that being the case, in a real kind of twist of irony, Kael'thas got everything that he originally set out to do, right? Like he wasn't alive to see it, but through his unknowing of trying to open this gate for Kil'jaeden, through his unknowing of giving his people Maru, he did end up in the long run bringing the Sunwell and thus finding salvation for his people back into the picture. He just wasn't alive to see it when it all happened, and was the one that kind of worked against it in the long run.
Kael'thas did nothing wrong.
It's more logical than the Garrosh one, at least. But yeah, that is the end of Kael'thas Sunstrider. I'm sure that we'll never see him again, and his story ends here, right, Tim?
Well, no, because we kill him in Shadowlands. So.
I know. I'm messing with you.
I hate that fight.
But at least until we go into the very afterlife of the world in general, this is where the story of Kael'thas ends. If you guys did make it this far, we really appreciate it. Go ahead and show us some support through a like or a sub. We'd really appreciate that. Check out our socials, and we will see you guys in the next episode. Thank you so much for making it to the end of this episode. Your guys' support truly means the world to us. If you're interested in hearing more, we have our full show on YouTube and Spotify, new episodes dropping every Tuesday. I also want to take this moment to give a special thank you to Fantasy Lo-Fi for providing the music for this episode. You can find them on YouTube at Fantasy Lo-Fi or on Spotify under Bits and Hits. Be sure to show them some love, as their music does truly bring this journey to life. Once again, thank you for joining us on Tides of Lore, and we will see you next week.